Hemmings.com Classic Car Marketplace helps buyers search for their dream car and sellers to connect with a large audience searching for exotic cars and classic car parts. President Jonathan Shaw is here to tell us more about Hemmings.com, so please say hello in the live chat, make new friends, and learn from the best on ATI Auto Business. What's up, ecosystem? Welcome back to ATI Auto Business, automotive ecosystem, where everyone learns more about the automotive industry. Let's get started with some top industry news and headlines that include hacked luxury car recovered, classic car collector enthusiasm, and Hemmings.com marketplace services. Please do click like and share. Hello, YouTube. Hello, LinkedIn. Please feel free to jump in the live chat. Say hello there as well. This is show 354 in a row on a Tuesday. That's right. Ding. So Hemmings.com Classic Car Marketplace. Well, we're lucky enough to be here for, it is the 70th anniversary of Hemmings. We're going to learn more about Hemmings. This is Jonathan Shaw. He is the president of Hemmings. And you want to find your perfect collector car? You can go to Hemmings.com. You can do that right now while you listen to the show. You're going to learn more about how to navigate, what you're looking at. We've also got Chris Picconi. He is here with us. He's the founder of Classic 4x4. And I think it might be Chris Picconi, and he's gonna tell us how to say his name. He's here with us. This is Classic 4x4. You can also go to classic4x4.com. We're going to learn more about that as well. We want you to get to know your ecosystem. This is a chance for me and you to learn together live. It's video on demand, OEM, dealer, auction, logistics, remarketing, recon, compliance, and tech. It's the automotive ecosystem. If you missed last Tuesday night show with Brian Finkelmeyer, Auto Retail Party Crashers, we learned more about inventory versus sales right now, coming off the heels of CDK, as you know. And hey, if you got the memo, this is a video short playing right now on LinkedIn with Patrick Janes and Brian Finkelmeyer of Cox Automotive. It's a great short. Also, you can't night drop everything. This is a video short that comes out of the industry logistics show that we do on Thursdays, where me and Sue talk about dispatching fundamentals. And actually, this Thursday, we've got Kaylee Filio. She is the parts girl. She is going to help us understand the service department and appreciate it more. So let's go ahead and jump into some auto ecosystem news. We had mentioned 2 weeks ago that 2 luxury cars worth $500K were stolen after a thief hacked into a car carrier's portal. The search was on for a 2024 Mercedes-Benz GLS 600 Maybach worth around $200,000, and that's pretty scary. What happened? The delivery location changed suddenly. A hacker got into the driver's portal, pretended to be the receiving party, changed the delivery information suddenly, and then it occurred. It was stolen. Well, check this out. This was posted on LinkedIn. Bradley S. from Clarity Consulting Group. He says that the VIN, they found it. They found the 2024 Mercedes Maybach S680. While searching known hotspots for stolen vehicles on a case, they rolled up on this brand new Maybach S680. The vehicle had Illinois license plate attached that was slightly bent upwards, and the vehicle just looked out of place for the area. You don't usually see a $320,000 vehicle just sitting on the side of the road in an industrial area. More digging revealed that the Mercedes had never produced a vehicle with the VIN that they found listed on the vehicle, and bammo. That thing is stolen. This thing's hot. They contacted law enforcement, Miami-Dade PD Auto Theft Unit, let them know what they had. The vehicle was later identified by Miami PD detectives, confirmed it had been stolen on 6/3/24. It was about a month ago. It was one of 2 luxury vehicles stolen at the time, with the other being a 2023 Mercedes G63 AMG. Previously identified, the G63 listed for sale on an underground theft chat, but thanks to the efforts, the victims averted a $320K loss. This one's on the house, putting a financial dent in the activities of a group responsible was well worth it. If you need help, contact Clarity Investigative Group. Introducing Clarity Investigative Group. Go learn more about how they can help you. It is in the headlines. Young people are collecting their cars their parents and their grandparents drove. This is happening. This is a thing. And, of course, classic car scam sites are on the rise, too. There's scamming everywhere you look. We all know that. But it is good to be reminded. Don't click on the link on that text you just randomly got. Here are some common car scams. Curb stoning, transaction that takes place in front of a residence which should make a buyer feel safe. Ooh. Fake escrow, odometer fraud, overpayment scam, gift card scam, wire transfer scam, fake ads, too good to be true, just got out of the military, sweet old lady, needs cash, oh wait, let's make it gift cards, and that's how it happens. Now, there's a lot of enthusiasm to bid on collector vehicles. Weekend after weekend, you see the auctions. You know, man, that's a great-looking car. Iconic 1970 Plymouth Cuda. That thing looks pretty nice. Rare 1974 Porsche 911 Carrera. Gotta go see it. Rare 2008 Mercedes-Benz SLR McLaren Crown Edition. What else we got? 10 of the most beautiful Toyotas ever sold at auction. Pretty soon, you're interested, and you're browsing. What do we got here? A powerful Mopar. Wow, look at that baby. Those look like Matchbox cars. This is real. You've heard of reliable carriers? Moving high-end, nice vehicles. Who else is involved here? Let's see, 1974 Ford Pinto. Wow. So it's not just collector and exotic. It's rare. It's hard to find. Tiny Toyota Sports 800 Roadster. Ooh, you can live in the fast lane with the furious wide-body Honda S2000. Rod Stewart's pretty Lamborghini Countach. And I started to look up, man, who moves, like Cinema Vehicles Transportation. Yes, there's a lot of transport companies, but there are companies that specialize in specialized vehicle transportation. And I started to realize, surfing, it's not just, here we go, a BMW M3. It's just that it's well preserved. This 2016 Ford Focus with 33,000 miles is of interest. Classic car experts see bargains. 230 Lincoln Continental Coach Door Edition. Now, traditionally, I always thought of, like this, like a Studebaker Golden Hawk Roadster. That's what a collector is looking for. Then I started, wow, okay, yeah, sure, half-track personnel carrier. Why not? And then, yeah, there's cars in museums. Oh my gosh. So this is a gigantic industry with a whole economy about it. You got rare motorcycles. Man, look at that thing. Or a Lamborghini sitting in a living room for 40 years. One-off bronze Ford Escort built for Henry Ford II. 16 million pound car. And, of course, the second most expensive car ever sold at an auction. So what is it all about? And how do you get to know a company that specializes in this much activity, that is so specialized? Hemmings.com offers resources so that you can do the things you need to do on their website. They have valuations, financing. It's great. That's a great resource. Pay and title services. Yeah, that's great too. That's available. We're going to learn more about that. Hemmings shipping. Classic car shipping. Look at that. Powered by a Certus. We know that name. Special cars require special insurance. You can give a call. Talk about your special life coverage. And then also there's education at Hemmings. 92.2 million Americans are interested in collector cars. Wow, that's big. 31 million collector vehicles in America, 18 million collector car owners. Oh, divvied up by percentage of generation, which the interest is going up, right? Again, kids want to own cars their grandparents drove or wanted. Transactional value and volume, digital marketplace growth, right? Online auction growth. And then a marketplace focus. Classifieds, make offer, online auction, 30,000 collector vehicles for sale monthly. So there's a lot to learn, and we're going to learn that tonight. And this also, I found this interesting, the cycle of shipping. Well, so you got personalized vehicle valuation, vehicle inspection, pay and title, insured marketplace, shipping. Valuation, inspection, registry, title, and round it goes. Smart. A smart cycle. There's also events going on that they also advertise on the website. Musclepalooza coming up in October. So we are going to learn a lot. We've got Jonathan Hemmings. He's the president of Hemmings.com Classic Car Marketplace. He is here with us. So please do stick around. We don't ship cars. We move information. Leverage ATI in your business. Find out how. Go to ATIautobusiness.com. Listen to the podcast. And know your ecosystem. Do me a favor, stick around, because right after this, we're going to be live with Jonathan. You don't want to miss it.
Are you completely stressed out from all the calls and the contracts and the verifications of loads where nobody ever answers the phone? Call Murphy Auto Dispatch Services today. Murphy Auto Dispatch Services has over 15 years in the transport industry. We are your office while you are on the road. We book, we verify, and we bill out your loads for you. We have an excellent accounting staff and an even better dispatch team. Give us a call today at 417-273-0021, or if you want to email me, it's murphyautotransport31@yahoo.com. Give us a call today.
Transport Auto Quoter is by far the leading auto quoting software on the market, and the only auto quoter with a pro version that comes preset with accurate pricing for anywhere in the U.S. So you don't have to worry about it. The best part is that no change with your current software is needed. Just plug TAQ in and start booking jobs. Carriers can easily plug TAQ into their current websites and start making money right away. I bet you're wondering how we do this instantly and accurately 24/7. Well, constant analytics is the key. Our Price Watch team is constantly monitoring current market conditions, paying close attention to seasonal and quick-moving industry changes. At the end of the day, it takes a lot of time and data to maintain good pricing, time that most of us just don't have on a daily basis. So free yourself up. Using TAQ Pro is really a no-brainer. Save time and money, maximizing your leads and optimizing your online investments. You'll finally be able to sleep well at night knowing that TAQ is on the job selling for you 24/7. Never missing a potential job.
Don't lose any more sleep worrying about missing leads. Get Transport Auto Quoter to quote the right price the first time, every time. Run your business with TAQ. Visit transportautoquoter.com. All right, here we go. Please do help me wish a very warm welcome to my featured guest, Jonathan Shaw, president of Hemmings. Jonathan, can you see me and hear me okay?
Jay, I got you. It's a pleasure to be on the ATI Business radio show with you right now.
Have you? Do me a favor. We're just getting settled in. Please say hello and tell us a little bit more about you.
Sure, yeah. I'm Jonathan Shaw. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. The honor and privilege of being the president of Hemmings. We are the world's largest collector car marketplace. We're celebrating our 70th year this year. We were founded in 1954 by Ernest Hemmings, our namesake. And Hemmings originated as a marketplace. Ernest was a Model A and Model T enthusiast, and he found it really hard to find the cars he wanted to collect and the parts for them. So he thought, hey, I'm going to put together a 4-page pamphlet, mail it out to 100 of my known Model A and Model T club buddies. And from there, here we are 70 years later. We have an incredible online auction marketplace, still do traditional classifieds. We still print Hemmings Motor News. So the Hemmings legacy still lives on today, and we've modernized it with a lot of new services for the modern consumer.
That is an awesome story. I'll ask this while I'm thinking of it. How long has the online marketplace been what it is? Would you
Gosh,
say?
when I got to Hemmings, I could started consulting with Hemmings in 2018 before I came on full time. I consulted on the auction technology and the auction operation build. We launched that in August of 2019. That's really when it kind of changed from traditional classifieds. Hemmings.com has been around from the early, .com days, but we're in a new era right now, and we've introduced new marketplaces. We have our classifieds, our online auction where we're auctioning cars every single day, as well as our make offer product, which kind of sits in the middle between the auction and the classified world. And then we launched a bunch of new services this year to bolster the marketplace too, Jay.
So I know a little bit about the .com era. I was there. I mean, I've been around, and it is interesting. I mean, I kind of asked that, saying that these things are moving quickly now. Well, you just said 2018, 2019. It doesn't sound like that long ago, but a lot has happened in the last 5 years. I'll bet if we were to go to the Wayback Machine and
Right.
look at Hemmings.com in 2018, it would look a lot different than it does now.
It would look totally different.
Right.
And you're exactly right. I think the rapid onset of e-commerce in general, and then the onset of digital services, digitally enabled services, has changed so much. Even in the time, Jay, from the last 2 years, it is now running extremely fast. And that was really my charge when I got to Hemmings. Hemmings was a print media company when I got there. And now we're an online automotive marketplace. We still have print for that audience, but we're highly focused on the digital future of the business.
So tell me more about, I saw that slide. It was 3 types of auctions or offerings. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so in our marketplace, we run 3 different marketplaces. A lot of sites, particularly digital, only marketplaces, focus on just, online auctions, or they're just classifieds. We run classifieds, a make offer product, and an online auction. Classifieds, exactly what you expect. It's just kind of a digital version of your traditional print classified. In the make offer product, that kind of sits between the two. We're verifying ownership data. We're verifying the title of the vehicle. There's a private message center. We offer professional write-ups for the vehicles. You can make, as a seller, you can receive, counter, reject offers that come in directly online. As a buyer, you can, make offers directly, through the site. 'Cause what we're finding as younger people get in, they're not so apt to pick up the telephone and want to have that conversation. A lot of people also know the price. They trust Hemmings that we're going to present the car fairly as it stands. And so they're comfortable buying a car, sight unseen, and making their offer through the site. In the online auction, it's a 7-day auction period. Professional photography, professional write-ups of the car. We set the reserves, and the seller has to agree on the reserve to the vehicle. We don't do anything, monkey business where we're lowballing reserves to get sales. A lot of times our cars will end and hit the bell at the block exactly on the number, and I really like that. I really like the fact that we're hitting that number right on, even with a bidding war or something like that going on. So we offer 3 distinct marketplaces.
It's got to be nice going back to the history from Ernest Day's Model A, Model T, 4-page pamphlet. I wrote that down. I love that. It's awesome. And here you are now. Here's Hemmings, able to, kind of like you said, just be there in the middle as a professional to help facilitate buying and selling.
That's right.
And especially in today's, I gotta say, if I say fraud or whatever, I mean, that you must personally know of situations. You might get emails from somebody. Oh my God, I should have come to you guys, right?
Yes, absolutely. We have had since when Terry Eric bought Hemmings in the 70s and moved it to Bennington, Vermont. We have had essentially what we called the Black Book. It existed as a ledger, handwritten ledger. It exists as a database now where bad actors are blacklisted. And once you are on that list, you can never return off that list. It does not matter what you do. You may not return to the site. We have people who call us all the time trying to get out of situations where they bought a car from somebody else or another marketplace, looking for advice, value, help. Who can fix the wrongs or the ills that I did not know exist in this car? We at Hemi, we try to present the cars as they appear, as fair as possible. No sugarcoating, no glossing over the needs of the car or rust spots or anything like that. You need to know what you're getting into.
Wow. Okay, I didn't know. I didn't know what I was opening there. There is a black list of bad actors.
Yeah, and that includes buyers, sellers. That includes, potentially dealers. It includes former advertisers who, didn't deliver the parts that somebody, ordered through us or through their catalog. It kind of runs the gamut.
Service providers.
You're exactly right.
Oh,
Yep.
man.
Service providers. Yeah.
That's legit. That's what it takes, right?
It does, and that's why I think in the digital age, you really need to work with a company that has a history, that has 70 years or multiple decades of trust behind them. Check the reviews, talk to people who have used different providers before. I wouldn't be the first one to go buy a car off of a marketplace that I had never heard of. That's for sure.
Right, reviews and reputation are a really big deal.
Absolutely.
And I think we had talked about there's some collector car auctions. I guess there's many types of auctions. Why don't you talk about that for a minute too? What's the overall economic marketplace of collector cars? What does this industry look like?
Yeah, it's changed so much. COVID had a massive impact on collector cars, and the industry as a whole, Jay, has kind of lagged a little bit, as far as technology adoption and everything. It runs, 5 to 8 years behind kind of general consumer preferences, but that changed drastically when COVID hit. Because the live auctions, and people seeing each other in person to look at cars from classifieds and things like that, that basically all stopped, right? That came to a screeching halt. And so e-commerce just burst during that time. Here's some great stats for you. In 2019, online auctions, or the number of collector cars sold, were 8,216. In 2023, through online auctions, there were 42,525 bought and sold. So a 418% increase in e-commerce activity just in online auctions in the collector car space from 2019 to 2023. In 2020, all auctions, live auctions and online, there was about $1.76 billion of total dollar volume of sales. In 2023, that was $4.2 billion. So we've seen this massive rise in the buying and selling of collector cars, for sure.
So, all right, what is it about collector cars? I know I'm gonna try to get as close I can as the core human element of the love of the car. Is there any way to shed light on what is it about car collecting?
So I think it's an experience, first of all. And I think if anything, a lot of us learned during COVID, to not push off the life experiences we wanted to have, it's as I also have this theory, Jay, that as cars become more, I would call mush, right? They're muted. Modern cars, a lot of them, not all of them, there's still some really fun cars that come off the assembly line. They're kind of mush. They're really bland. They're super quiet inside. All the dampening on the steering wheel. You can't feel the road. there's a visceral feeling to driving a collector car. It's a smell, it's an experience, it's a sound, it's an auditory, experience as well. There's just something about it. And what we've also seen is collector cars have gone mainstream again. You see them in all kinds of things like, recently we were talking to a couple of, really high-end clothing companies about cars for their next catalog shoots. You saw Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg drive them out a couple years ago, their Impalas for the Super Bowl performance. Sydney Sweeney, the extremely famous actress right now, she's partnered with Ford. She built a Bronco last year. She built a Mustang, classic Mustang this year. So we've seen collector cars move back into kind of the center of pop culture again.
Well, you're right. I did see something about like Barbie, right? The movie Barbie had that
Yep.
car in it, and but you're absolutely right. Okay, so I'm listening and talk. I'm thinking that's it. It's what you see, it's what you feel, it's what you smell, it's what you hear, and it's a time machine.
Absolutely. In fact, we've got an ad campaign that we run right now called Time Travelers Wanted. So you're spot on.
Well, all right. I mean, that's still, and it made me think of like Back to the Future. Obviously, it's the perfect example of the car that is a time machine. And look at the love for the DeLorean. I went and I watched I don't know, there's a couple documentaries about the DeLorean, about the man, the DeLorean, the man.
Yep.
And anyways, it's such a fascinating story. There's a huge love for this car now.
Massive. They've become,
Right.
cult collectors items, valuations off the charts, and when they were, even off the assembly line, they weren't particularly great cars. I mean, they weren't
No.
fast, engine problems, they weren't comfortable, but,
Parts didn't fit right, which made me
that's
think
right.
of the Tesla, early Tesla.
That's right. But now, we have a tremendous following on Hemmings.com for AMC DeLoreans. I think we're the top thing that comes up on Google when you search AMC DeLoreans, and we've got a big, robust marketplace for them.
When you think of, and I want to side note, there's a lot of TV shows about cars, right? I mean, I don't even know how many there are, and I don't know how many YouTube channels there are about cars. But when you think of movies, you could list a lot of movies that
Yeah.
have kind of that picture car, famous car, Blues Brothers, even though that's, and that gets into what is a vehicle worth? How do you properly
Yeah.
value a collector car?
So that's a question we obviously get all the time. And the reason why we started as part of our frictionless marketplace, the reason why we started our personalized valuation service. And so in that, instead of looking at, a database of general comps, we get the car itself. You submit the vehicle, we're taking photos of that car, the description you provide, we're looking up the history of the vehicle, and then we're researching the market for recent comps. So that's live auction comps, that's online auction comps, that's our own classified comps, as well as our what we call the gray market, which is the private party sale database that we have as well. And so we're able to look at your individual car and place a value on it for, a real value analysis based on the photos and the condition and the description matched to what the most recent comps are. But, Jay, it can go all over the place because you've got, let's say I've got my own project car right now, 1976 Chevy Blazer. When I bought it 3 years ago before its restoration, it was a $14,000 car. When I'm finished with it, it will be a six-figure car. And so there's all kinds of different grades of where the car sits from, its rust condition, its project, its original motor, or whatever, all the way to, this is a resto mod with a brand new LS engine, brand new, 4L80 transmission, completely redone interior, new paint, perfect body. It's better than when it rolled off the factory floor. And so we've got to take all that into account when we're valuing a car.
You had me thinking there. It's okay, so that brings us into parts, because you look at across the country, how many people are working on a car right now They've been thinking about it for years, right? It's in some stage of disarray or rebuild,
Right.
and they need parts.
So there are 31 million collector vehicles in the U.S., and we define a collector vehicle as 25 years old or older, and it's past its depreciation point, right? So either the value's leveled or it's appreciating in value again. There's 18 million collector car owners. I would say, maybe a fifth of that is working on their cars. So you still have millions of people, working on their cars. We want to see more people work on their cars. Why we do restoration guides and all kinds of stuff like that, because part of the fun is keeping it running yourself. And if you can't, we've got a huge book of directory of folks who can do it for you.
There's somebody maybe right now thinking, man, I got to get out there and I got to work on the car. It's been another year and I haven't touched it. Let's do this. Let's bring in Chris. Do me a favor. We're not going to go anywhere. We're just going to add Chris. Chris, please do get ready. Here comes Chris. We're adding him now. Chris is the founder of Classic 4x4 because we still have plenty more to talk about. We didn't talk about motorcycles. You have those too?
Oh yeah, we've got lots of motorcycles.
Yeah.
You're seeing lots of gold wings, people taking the long cruiser bikes. We sell early Harleys. We've got a little bit of everything.
So, and then now Chris at Classic 4x4, does he then specialize in trucks? I know he's going to be here in a second, but I'm assuming that's what he's, yeah.
Chris specializes in classic SUVs, so your FJ40s, your CJ7 Jeeps, your Defenders, all the way through to trucks, C10s, K20s, K10s, you name it. He's an expert in it, and he and I really geek out together because we both have a love for classic 4x4s. As I mentioned, my Blazer, I love the 4x4 space. My first memory of a car was in a Jeep Grand Wagoneer back in the 80s, and I've always wanted one of those. Chris is gonna help me find the perfect one through Hemmings here pretty soon. So yeah, it's great.
Okay, good. So this is something that's what I'm hoping to get to is after he tells us more about Classic 4x4 is what you guys like it. And you just said it. Like, so let's say I've got a friend and I'm talking about media because that's my thing. Okay. Yeah. For example, you know what I just found out? Here's a sidebar. I just found out that Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall did 5 movies together in the 40s. I did not know that. I want to see them.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if that means anything to half or 3/4 of people watching, but the irony here is we're talking about classic movies.
Right.
I actually think that classic movies are pretty interesting. And so it's that, gosh, I don't even know how we explain what happens through time in the human experience. Chris, can you see us and hear us okay?
I'm here. Thank you very much for having me on the show today, Jay. And thank you also, Jonathan, for that very generous introduction.
Of course, Chris. I always get a smile on my face when I see you, buddy. I hope you're well.
Everything's well.
Good.
So, Chris, please take it away. Say hello. Tell us a little bit more about you.
Well, I am Chris Picconi, the founder of Classic 4x4, and we are unique in the manner that what Classic 4x4 does is we advise, market, and represent the sale of classic custom collector trucks and 4x4s for owners and enthusiasts of collector trucks and 4x4s. Buying a truck or a collector vehicle is fun. Selling it is not always that much that fun. So I handle every aspect from start to finish, from valuation, preparation, developing the go-to-market strategy, executing that go-to-market strategy, finalizing the sale, and even handling all the post-sale documentation and logistics. And Hemmings is one of my great marketplace partners. And Jonathan mentioned the Make Offer product. It's one of my favorite products that when I represent the sale of my clients' collector trucks and 4x4s.
Thanks, Chris.
I'm assuming that you would implore anybody buying or selling to go through a marketplace rather than...
Of course.
Why? Just expand on it.
Well, and the other thing I'll talk about, which is interesting. Yes, marketplaces are, essential to our business. They create not only transparency but liquidity for all of us enthusiasts that collect and own trucks, 4x4s, and anything else out there. But one thing that's unique with marketplaces is they're not all, they're really not all created equally. And Jonathan actually just talked about it. I look at marketplaces as having three, core pillars or tenets. And the first is balance, obviously, is making sure what a marketplace does is brings together buyers and sellers. And, you have to balance that, and it's not easy to balance, making sure that you have supply, which is the inventory, but also demand, people looking to buy that inventory. So that's a responsibility of marketplaces and having balanced marketplaces. But Jonathan actually touched on the most important part, which is integrity. And this is where not all marketplaces are created equally, because sadly enough, one of the biggest things out there is consumers just assume that, that every marketplace has integrity that is on the same, caliber as a Hemmings, which is not true. Sadly enough, integrity, things like verifying ownership of the vehicle. As crazy as it sounds, there's a lot of buyers out there that are bidding on vehicles on online marketplaces and auctions where the owner isn't even aware that it's up there. Right, it's been passed through multiple brokers. And they've never verified ownership. Obviously, that doesn't happen at Hemmings. And we'll give a little shout out to Jennifer Sandquist and her marketplace team, because I've worked with her, extensively, and she does an amazing job making sure that every single vehicle, has verified ownership. The other big variable to integrity is disclosing material information. And then lastly, when there are bad actors in the marketplace, making sure that they can't operate in that marketplace and being in that black book, that black book that was created back in the 70s at Hemmings. And the last variable and the last tenet really is trust. And that really falls on the hands of the buyers and the sellers, making sure that, the sellers are really presenting the vehicle correctly. And when they go to auction with a reserve or a no reserve auction, that they're going to honor that sale. And the buyers on the other end, when they are the winning bidder, when that bell goes off and that hammer goes down, that they're going to actually transact and purchase that vehicle.
I think that was well summarized of any marketplace. Like you said, right? That was really... Because here I am, and I would say, I would argue that anybody involved in buying, selling, or in a marketplace is thinking of their own marketplace, their backyard, and applying those pillars and doing the sniff test. And that is why some marketplaces that we deal in aren't what we're looking for, and then we end up looking for another marketplace.
I couldn't agree more. And, it's sad that there are, marketplaces that don't operate with integrity. And don't get me wrong, the majority of the marketplaces out there, and online marketplaces are what dominate collector vehicle transactions. But, a majority of those marketplaces do operate with integrity, but there is a subsection of marketplaces that don't operate with integrity. And as a buyer or a seller out there, you have to really make sure you understand who you're doing business with. And if you're enlisting, an expert like myself to manage that sale, making sure that you have everything in writing, like I do with my clients. They understand the strategy. They understand, how you're going to facilitate that transaction and protect them, because you have a responsibility to our clients, who is the actual owner of the vehicle.
And Jay, from our side, working with Chris at Classic 4x4, we know that there's going to be realistic expectations of values placed on the car, because Chris is an expert in his space. Cars are going to be presented as they exist, with the known issues and also the known upgrades clearly listed. He's got his sellers, ready and prepped for the experience. The cars are beautifully photographed. They come with inspection reports. Chris really does an excellent job, and it really makes our, experience in the marketplace easier. It honestly, his vehicles attract buyers because of the way he gets the cars prepped and ready.
Wow. That was awesome. Chris, how would you say that the trucks differ from the cars? Can you elaborate on some of the nuances there?
Of course, the collector vehicle market is really driven by generational change. You said it best. You highlighted that New York Times article where young people want to, drive their parents and grandparents' cars, and that generational change is really what drives the collector vehicle market. Right now, if you look at the demographic that is kind of coming into their own, has discretionary spending, that wants to buy a collector vehicle, they were really born somewhere in the the mid to late 60s to the mid 80s. They really fall in that 35 to 55 year old demographic. And what did you see on the road at that period of time? And what were your grandparents and your parents driving? Was trucks and 4x4s, Jeep CJ7s, International Harvester Scouts, Toyota FJ Land Cruisers, K5 Blazers. And that right now, the truck and 4x4 market really is, has not only grown in interest, but it's seen the most appreciation really in the overall collector vehicle market. But on the flip side, so as the truck and 4x4 market is growing, right, you're starting to see the earlier stuff, and not so much trucks, because pre the 60s, trucks were really just utilitarian vehicles, right? They were purpose built, but some of the earlier stuff, the 30s, 40s, 50s vehicles outside of the really rare Duesenbergs and Ferraris and stuff like that, that market's actually shrinking. So as the collector truck and 4x4 market is growing and appreciating, we're starting to see the earlier stuff really kind of shrink. But hey, eventually, the next generation will be into 90s and 2000s Trans Ams, and at some point, a Rivian EV is going to become a classic, right?
Yeah, it's coming fast. And Jay, I can attest. Chris is so spot on as always. I was born in 1985, so I'm 39 years old this year. And I rolled around in the back of my parents' late 80s or early 90s Jeep Grand Wagoneer. And ever since then, I just opined for one of those. It is going to be in my garage one day. And so, I grew up with that kind of first rung of, full-size SUVs. And I want one now as I'm hopefully entering my discretionary income period and have a little money on the side to work on one.
I was at a light and I saw the Smokey and the Bandit, the Trans Am.
Oh yeah,
and I did. I double taked. I started thinking about my childhood and stuff, and I really like the Dukes of Hazzard. What vehicle is that?
That's a Dodge Charger.
Oh man, that gets me every time. The Robert E. Lee.
Yep.
Yeah. So it is fast. It's a fascinating marketplace. Obviously, there's a big business to it. We do see. Again, on any given weekend, and you were talking about when you mentioned COVID too, the collector car auctions, and even like I think there's a burger joint down the street where every Saturday night they pull up their cars. These are back. Everything's back, right?
Yeah, it's awesome. Cars and coffee are totally back. People could go and cruise, but they couldn't really congregate a whole lot. So the event scene is back, drag and drive events, cars and coffee events, standard car shows at, the drive-in theater, the burger joint are back. And they're kind of back with a vengeance. Like, I love cars and coffee events also, and we sponsor several of them. It's a phenomenal way to get young people into collector cars. It's a couple hours on a Saturday morning. You can still hit T-ball or gymnastics afterwards. You're not dragging the kids, across state lines for the drag race or whatever it is. Like I love cars and coffee from that aspect and its ability to pull younger people in. It's a real family-friendly atmosphere.
Let's talk about that for a second. Then how do you, and I'm going to say part of the answer is probably, like I think what was the YouTube? Killer Mike? You guys have a YouTube? Tell what is that?
Yeah, so we did, Killer Mike had this amazing Buick Regal, 80s Buick Regal, that he has been sitting on for a long time. Mike's a wonderful individual. We partnered up with Soupy, who used to be with Hoonigan, now Soupy Weaponich is on his own. He does beautiful builds. And so Mike wanted to rebuild his Buick Regal with a brand new, I think it's got an LT4 in it, supercharged LS engine, to drive to the Grammys. And people, obviously they're smoking mirrors to, when a project is done and you're kind of faking the timeline. It's like, no, we had Mike show up and literally had 3 months to get this car built and out, and literally have Mike drive it to the Grammys, which he won. He won every Grammy he was up for, which was super cool. So we've got footage on our YouTube channel of Killer Mike, our building the car, him seeing the car for the first time, and then him cruising up to the Grammys with his wife. It was really special.
Wow.
And we were touched that Mike
awesome.
would let us put the car together for him with Sippy.
So you're mentioning some names. What were you gonna say, Chris? Do you have somebody like, because this is the outreach, right? To bring in more folks, younger folks, to get them to take a look and get involved and learn more, is to what, TikTok stars or? Right?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't even know who Soupy is.
I don't know who Soupy is, but it felt
maybe only 42
like I've
years
heard of
old,
him,
but maybe I'm an old soul.
He
right?
might be, up with popcorn doing the moonshine. But the thing is, there are stars in everything now.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Yep.
There's
you would be
there's
surprised.
platforms, and us from the media perspective of the business, as we transition from being print focused to digital focused, and now it's off platform. You create a lot of media now, Jay, that's never going to live on Hemmings.com. It lives on Instagram, it lives on TikTok, it lives on YouTube.
Right.
Those are brand extensions for us, ways for us to gain new audiences and ultimately feedback to the marketplace, so that when we build the truck, the CJ7, and then Chris has it for sale, we've got the buyers coming in for it.
I was just saying, Monkey. What's the garage? Monkey.
There's Gas Monkey Garage.
Gas Monkey Garage. Right. How have I heard of that? I've heard of it.
Yeah, he's got a big YouTube presence
Right.
now. He was on Discovery Channel for a while before that. So, yeah, I mean, there's there's several on Netflix. In fact, we got some data from our partners at Netflix that said car shows, particularly collector and classic car shows, were their measure of performance was stickiness. So how long would somebody stay through the entire episode? And classic and collector car shows were the most sticky productions that they could make. And so you see them more on Netflix now. Mav TV, we're partners with Mav TV, so all of our productions run on Mav. Mav's realized, the wonderful space that is classic and collector car enthusiasts. They're really big in action and racing, and then we've partnered with them to bring more collector and classic material to bear too.
Even you look at you mentioned earlier, Jonathan, productions and the use of collector vehicles in productions that has skyrocketed. And in my personal collection, I have actually an agent for my trucks, as wild as this sounds, right? So I have had my trucks featured in ad campaigns for Ralph Lauren, Vineyard Vines, Arnett, Faraday. I can go down there. I just did the Macy's fall campaign. So the blue 1990 K5 Blazer that you're going to see on the Macy's fall campaign on online, in store, on all the commercials. That's actually out of my personal collection. And these brands, they want to take these A-list celebrities and these models and integrate into what their consumers want to see, which is collector vehicles and in my world, collector trucks and 4x4s.
That is awesome. And then so I used to work on movie sets a bit. All of the rigmarole that goes into getting the vehicle, what day are we going to shoot it, where do we need it, who's going to handle it, all of that production that goes into that. You're in the North Carolina area as well, I'm guessing?
I'm actually in coastal New Jersey. I'm about an hour south of New York City, and I'm sitting in my home about 100 yards from the beach right now.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, so I mean that's a lot of production. So then you might have some service providers that you'd recommend or only deal with to move and transport, and then you've got the film production companies. I mean, that's a lot. That's why I looked up that cinema vehicle production company. I don't know, it's a lot of cars that are at a lot that are picture cars aren't really famous cars.
Mhm.
Other than like the Ghostbusters car or
Right.
something like that. And they're one-offs. It's not like they can be in every movie. Which is another interesting thing about picture cars, movie props, things like that.
Well, so many of the cars in pictures too are, purpose built, right? They may be missing half the windshield so the camera can stick in the side. So finding some of these movie cars, the Bullet Mustang that Mecum auctioned off, 2 years ago, for it to be running and driving is a pretty unique thing amongst movie cars. In fact, we just did a TikTok reel. We have we were talking about DeLoreans. We've got those. We have a Batmobile, but like the really crazy Batmobile, the multi-million-dollar Batmobile for sale on Hemmings, right now from I think was it the first Christian Bale reboot of Batman. So pretty cool movie cars out there.
That is an awesome car.
But you guys talk about Back to the Future and you talk about the DeLorean, and like Back to the Future is like a key movie for me that really ignited the passion for trucks and 4x4s.
I know what you're
You know,
gonna
yeah, you know exactly what I'm gonna say, and it's not the DeLorean. I mean, the DeLorean's cool, don't get me wrong, but it's that CJ7 that Marty McFly, pulls behind, on his skateboard.
He gets at the end. Oh, okay, that one. Okay, right.
It's the lifted black
Yes.
SR5 Toyota pickup truck. Like that's what resonates with me. Don't get me wrong, the DeLorean's cool, but that's what resonates for me. And watching that movie as a young child is really what led me to my career where it's at today.
So while we were talking Ferris Bueller's, popped in my mind.
Oh, yeah.
What is it? That's a Ferrari? Is it?
Yeah, I can't remember if it's what model Ferrari
Right.
that is and Ferris Bueller, maybe a Dino. I can't remember, but exceptionally valuable today, and that value of that car has only risen. That's for sure.
When I pulled up, you were talking about the news articles, the one of Rod Stewart's Countach. I mean, it looked right out of a music video. I wonder if, hey, Rod, great music video. Here, take the car. Have a nice day. Kind of thing.
Yeah, and there's an awesome intersect with musicians. Musicians love cars. James Hetfield of Metallica, lead singer of Metallica, is a huge hot rod fanatic. He's had numerous hot rods custom built for him, shown him at SEMA and some really prestigious awards. There's I forget who it is, but really famous. My personal favorite sports car is a De Tomaso Pantera. And that's on my bucket list for the one of these days later down the road. But, Panteras were loved because, they had this crazy Italian styling like the Countach, but they were powered by 351 Clevelands at a Ford. So, this kind of sweet mix between American muscle meets this incredible Italian exotic design of the 70s and 80s. It was really cool cars.
You just made me think of. I was going to say two different movies. Is it Ford versus Ferrari? That's
Yeah.
the one, right? That movie's awesome.
Yeah, amazing movie.
A movie like Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield has kind of that older classic car, just as does Funny Farm, Chevy Chase. He's driving an old vintage thing in that too. Man, when you think about movies, my gosh, there's so many cars. And Sammy Hagar. Right, that guy loves cars.
Sammy,
You have to bring up John Candy in The Great Outdoors. I mean,
Yes.
Come on, driving that Grand Wagoneer too.
That's right.
Vacation.
Christmas Vacation, the family truckster, all that great stuff.
I'm just gonna keep me a few more minutes. This is great. When you guys geek out, what are you talking about? Give me some.
So
These days it's K5 Blazers.
Yeah, usually we're talking about Blazers. Chris has had his for a few years and done a lot to it. I'm doing mine right now, so I'm asking him for what audio system did you put in it? What'd you do about the roll bar, kind of all the various things. He went soft top, I'm going hard top. So yeah, we're always comparing, best of the best. And and then we talk about values. We talk about where the marketplace is, what the trends are, what's going to be hot soon. There was a international scout, a really special edition scout we had up for a day on our site, and I sent it to Chris, and I was like, this can't be real, right? I mean, it was such a kind of unicorn, one of one, had factory turbo in an 80 series. It was such a unique truck. Chris had a tuxedo CJ5 on his site that I just opined and loved. So we just talk about the market, we talk about business, and fortunately for us, Jay, our business is really cool cars. So we get to love what we do every day.
It is awesome business. And who's making some of these really rare one-offs? Where do they come from?
Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, there's one actually, ironically, here in New Jersey. There's a gentleman by the name of Rob Ida, who is a legendary custom and hot rod builder. His father was also a legend. I mean, he's doing a Pullman Mercedes Benz right now. I mean, you'd be very surprised. There's a lot more shops out there than you would think that build these, either unique custom vehicles or these bespoke investment quality, builds. You'd be very surprised.
It's a huge industry with a lot of enthusiasm. Okay. Oh, and here's something people, I can't let you go without asking this. What's going to happen with EV and gas in the future, and licensing and permits, and
Okay, so I've got my take on this. I'm really interested to hear Chris, because my take on it is, as driving becomes more, as we talked about, mushy new cars, right? As driving becomes more, even up to the point of autonomous. Sure, that's great for my commute when I need to take a bunch of phone calls in my car and I need to do that stuff in my car Monday to Friday. But I want the visceral experience on the weekends, right? If I'm going to T-ball, or I'm going on a date night, or I'm going to Cars and Coffee, I want to drive it, smell it, feel it, hear it going down the road. Okay. And so I think, the collector car in the garage for the weekends is going to be more and more prominent as cars become less and less interesting off the factory floor. But Chris, I want to hear your take.
So, and this is a little bit controversial, and I agree with Jonathan on this one. I'm always going to have, and all of us enthusiasts are going to have a garage with internal combustion engine, collector vehicles, no question, because you want that look, that feel, that smell, that sound. But when it comes to a daily driver, and keep in mind, my core business is advising and really marketing and representing the sale of classic custom collector trucks and 4x4s for collectors and enthusiasts. And that is how I make my living. But what do I daily drive? I actually just bought an EV. So I'm driving a Rivian R1S, and it was a unique experience. It took a little bit of getting used to, but it's kind of like driving an iPhone. Right. And I will tell you, it's the quad motor. It has 835 horsepower. It goes 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. It drives like a dream. And I love daily driving it. After a decade of daily driving Toyota 4Runner TRD Pros, I'm happy that I went to an EV as a daily driver. I absolutely love it. But at the end of the day, I always end up back at my garage in my 1980 International Harvester Scout Traveler, or my 1990, K5 Blazer, or that 1965 CJ5A Tuxedo Park. That's always going to draw us back.
Well, I think that, like, that autonomous EV future is just kind of inevitable, where we'll, be reading a book, be in a meeting, and we happen to be in a car that's driving itself and taking care of everything. I do believe that is something that will happen. But I also agree that the love of driving a vehicle will then, it'll become a greater disparity and a greater appreciation, just like anything else that we do. And what I wonder if there'll be like a political advocacy group that'll have to stand up for the right to drive these classic vehicles as we move into a future of just
And on the aftermarket parts side, SEMA, does that for us now. They've got the SEMA pack. They're lobbying, all the time for things like right to repair, right to modify. Several states, now won't let you change the exhaust on your car. That was like one of the first things I did when I had my Jeep TJ or my 2004 Tahoe, was like put a set of Flowmasters on it. It was awesome. And now you got states like really cracking down on that. And what they don't realize is, one, it really doesn't change the environmental effect of the car. Doing a lot of this doesn't change the environmental effect. And then two, it hurts jobs. A lot of times jobs in those states by folks who are performing restorations, performing modifications to cars, and things like that. So we're proud to be a member of SEMA. We're really happy with the work that they're doing to lobby on behalf. But that's on the aftermarket parts side. I think you're right, Jay. At some point, there will probably have to be a group that lobbies, on behalf of owning and still keeping on the road collector and classic cars.
I'm even
Jay,
now more convinced. Yeah, Chris.
I'll throw something even more wild at you. And we're starting to see some crossover between these collector vehicle and EV worlds. And that's in the conversion space. It's an area that I'm like absolutely enamored with. I've had a couple guests on my podcasts, not only on the component conversion space, where you take a collector vehicle and you rip out the powertrain, you rip out all the systems, and you take different components from EVs and retrofit them in collector vehicles and convert them to EVs. And there's even companies out there like Zero Labs, which has created like a skateboard, like a platform where in like 12 hours, they can take a first gen Bronco and just kind of, plop it on their EV platform, and it's an EV. I think that's another area that we're going to see some growth in is the EV conversion space within the collector vehicle marketplace. And it's not really driven by, this want to go green or save gas thing. It's more so purely from performance. EVs, the performance that comes out of EVs and in the with the amount of weight and the components that they have is absolutely exceptional.
Yeah, you just made me think. There's two things I saw recently I should have screenshotted and shared. One was like this homemade Cybertruck made out of plywood.
I'm not even going to comment on Cybertrucks.
Right, there you go. Oh man, well, you're going to have to eventually. And then the other one was a guy was driving a UFO down the road. Who knows what it was built on? But the conversion, absolutely right. I know in media, listen, at some point XLR started to disappear and it was USB. And I'm like, but I want XLR. Oh, but actually USB will be easier to plug into my computer, etc. That digital to analog change. So yeah, it will. Somebody's going to say one day, yeah, you can't drive your gas car. You don't need to. And you're going to say, well, I want to.
Yeah.
This is America, and I'm going to drive my gas car down the road, right?
At a certain point, Jay, it's really going to be can you find the gas? It's something we've thought about.
It is.
For the future decades of whoever's running Hemmings long after I'm gone, it's going to be, are we going to need to have gas stations? We're going to be like, okay, we're the one station in town so that the collector and classic guys can fuel up the ICE engines. And Chris, I'm glad you brought up Zero Labs. So cool. Really interesting tech there. I saw them for the first time like 2 weeks ago. Really unique idea and platform there.
The only ones doing it is pretty interesting.
So what are they
aren't
doing?
Using components?
In a nutshell, what is Zero Labs?
So it's like when Tesla first started, it's essentially the drivetrain, the battery pack, the motors, everything underpins and actually moves the car is all in this kind of self-contained unit. And then they're able to lower and modify and fit classic and collector bodies on top of that drivetrain. So really unique setup. Is that right, Chris?
It is. It's unique and in my opinion, probably the best option out there to convert a collector vehicle to an EV. Because when you started to first see conversions, what they were doing is just taking and retrofitting different components. Like, so a motor that is produced, an electric motor produced by this company, a battery pack produced by this company, a inverter by this company, cooling by this company. So it takes 3,000 to 5,000 man hours to take a collector vehicle and retrofit and plug in and fabricate and put all these components in. Whereas Zero Labs essentially has like a skateboard, right? It's a pre-existing platform, like Jonathan said,
Sounds like a skateboard.
has everything on it, all the suspension, braking, motors, and you literally just marry a collector vehicle body on top of it. And it's you can do it in like 12 hours. They can do it in like 12 hours. It's absolutely amazing, but it creates economies of scale, creates more efficiency. And if I see the future of collector vehicles, getting converted to EVs, that's really where I see it happening versus the individualized component angle.
Well, and you could end up at the point where, listen, we're just going to be better off taking this thing to Zero Labs at this point. We have too many other issues. Right? Whether it's cost, whether it's sourcing the parts on this particular vehicle. Let's just Zero Labs this thing out and call it a day.
But at the end of the day, I'm not getting in my K5 Blazer and turning it over.
Jonathan's like cringing inside as I'm saying, what is he saying?
and letting that 350 breathe and smelling that exhaust out of that small block 350. And that's where the real enjoyment comes from with the internal combustion engines and collector vehicles. It's always going to be there, no question.
There's a love of cars, and it's so cool that I got a chance to talk to you. Thank you so much for taking the time, Jonathan Shaw, Chris Picconi. Hemmings.com and Classic 4x4. If you have any questions, please do reach out to them and share this show. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jay. I really appreciate you having us on.
Yeah, thank you both.
Another applause. Thank you so much. I'll end this show right here. Thank you. Good night. All right. I let him go, and you know how that goes. I just want to say I learned a lot. I don't collect cars, but I can get enthusiastic about any topic when I'm learning it and realizing how much there is. I mean, there's been times where I've got excited about camping equipment because I was going to go camping for a while. And in this case, I just didn't really think about how there are so many collector cars in movies. Movies are my jam. And what an industry it is, and the number of shows and people and economy and services. So if you have a question for Hemmings.com, you want to talk to Jonathan Shaw and his group, go to Hemmings.com. You can go to Classic 4x4. That was Chris Picconi. He's the founder. If you have any questions, please let me know. Visit ATI Auto Business. Thank you, Murphy Auto Transport Services. Thank you, Superflow Systems. Thank you so much for saying hello in the live chat. I appreciate it. And thanks for tuning in to this live show. You can catch it on demand. I will also try to release a couple short videos from this show in the coming days. And if there's something I can help you with, please let me know. Here comes the car hauler. Have a good night. Join us on Thursday with the parts girl, Kaylee Filio, and I'll talk to you soon. Good night, everybody. Thank you.